Ready. Play.
Hi, Nick. How are you?
I'm all right, John. How are you?
Not bad. It looks like our timing could not be much worse given the weather that I'm watching on the TV in front of me. I have no idea how much tennis we will get this evening. Right now, I've shared some of the ATP scores on the screen. Some tense moments. I'm surprised Tiafoe has won that first set, given that I saw the first 6 games, I think it was, and Musetti was very much on top. But Nick, the surprise of the day, no matter what happens in Musetti Tiafoe, will not eclipse what happened to Alcaraz earlier.
So full confession, I have not seen any tennis
Me
today.
neither. Me neither. I mean, I've
So
joined over the last hour, but I didn't see Alcaraz.
obviously a massive shock. I just happened to check some messages whilst at work and saw some people commenting on the score. I was like, what? So Carlos Alcaraz is out of the Rome Masters, the Italian Open, if you want to be traditional about it. Little bit of a shock. Know nothing about this guy who beat him today. Not even how to pronounce his name. I feel like this is. I feel like we need Damien for this conversation, to be honest, but he's not on until a little bit later.
He'll be on later, so we'll certainly get his thoughts then. I think if okay, here's a question. Given that neither of us saw it, but I have seen Alcaraz's press conference afterwards. I've also heard commentators who did see the match give their thoughts on how it played out. But which would be a bigger shock? If Iga was to lose today or Alcaraz losing earlier, bearing in mind Vekic is obviously a higher ranked player than the guy that Alcaraz lost to.
Yeah, I would say, despite the fact that Iga's the dominant clay court player on the WTA at the minute, that ranking gap is still going to be more of a shock, regardless of whether she loses to Vekic or not. I think for me, that's an easy answer. It's the Alcaraz lost to Marat-Shan. I would say that if Alcaraz had, say, lost a little bit later on the tournament, then Iga would be the bigger shock.
Yeah.
But it's that fact that it's a 23-year-old ranked outside the top 100 who hasn't made much of an impact at sort of the ATP tour. That's what's kind of making the waves at the minute.
Yeah. Just a second. I will bring Tom in a second. Just a second, Tom. Yeah, exactly. The only thing is they are having similar seasons. In that they're both unbeaten, or they were both unbeaten during. Oh no, of course not. What am I talking about?
No.
Iga lost in the final to Arena. I mean, pedigree-wise, Iga obviously is eclipsing Carlos because he's still 1 or 2 years behind Iga, if you like, in the grand scheme of things. But it's the opponent really that takes us by surprise. I know that that the guy who played today was really super aggressive. Carlos touched on the fact that maybe he was a bit surprised by it as well. So yeah, that's all I can give you on that.
We're all just in a state of shock right here on Talking Tennis. We don't know how we're still processing what just happened. So I think as is the rest of the tennis world, let's be honest. This is, I won't say it's the biggest shock in tennis history, but it's now massively opened up the Alcaraz half of the draw because I have no idea. Because I have no idea who's going to get through now.
Is the weaker half, isn't it? It's the top half where we were looking at potentially for Novak. He was going to have to go through Carlos potentially in the final. He was going to have potentially Sinner in the semi and Runa in the quarters, as well as Cam Norrie tomorrow. And we were looking at that going, that's a tough run. You're going to have to keep winning all of those matches. I'm going to share a tweet from Bastien Fashion. I hope I'm not saying his surname at least wrong, but it was about the odds on the match today. I don't know if you can see that. He's comparing it to various others, and I can see a bit more rain as well and a bit more conjecture on the court right now in the Zverev JJ Wolf match. But yeah, I will bring you in, Tom, if you can hear me, but I can't bring you in until the tennis is off in the background, or I can not see it, Tom. But anyway, so just having a quick look at that, this tweet here that Bastien put out, comparing it in terms of the odds, at least, to Söderling beating Nadal and then a couple of other Nadal defeats at Wimbledon, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, I guess that Söderling-Nadal one is still probably the standout sort of. I know Söderling's standing was much higher, but that was just seismic.
But yeah, and Nadal was unbeaten at Roland Garros in his entire career, and regardless of sort of Söderling's status, yes, he was a seed, but you would expect that the person to eventually beat Nadal at Roland Garros would be someone of a Federer, Djokovic, or even a Murray caliber. This was kind of Söderling's big breakthrough. I mean, looking at these, I would say the biggest shock on that list is probably actually Rasol beating Nadal at Wimbledon in 2012, because Nadal's subsequent defeats at Wimbledon, were less of a surprise in that context. Maybe Stakhovsky beating Federer, actually, given how dominant Federer was in comparison. It'd be those two for me. And this is nowhere near that, because Alcaraz, although very good, does not have the Grand Slam repertoire yet that Nadal and Federer and Djokovic have on those lists. But obviously, he's looking at betting odds, which is a very different calculation.
Absolutely. There's one match on that screen, and I was at that match.
Were you asleep during it?
No, I was. I have been known to fall asleep at Grand Slams, as I've highlighted in the past. And yes, one of these matches on the screen I was at. For me, it's actually the weakest of all the contenders on there, including today's result, in my opinion. Does that give you a clue, Nick? Which
weak in terms of?
I don't think maybe the odds were the same, but for me, it's the least.
Querrey Djokovic in 2016. Yeah, I agree. Querrey, obviously, he wasn't a Grand Slam semi-finalist yet, but he would be the following year. He was a Queen's Club champion, very accomplished grass court player. On paper, he was always going to be a threat to Djokovic, even if we weren't expecting him to take the match. Definitely a high caliber of player compared to some of the others on that list.
Yeah, indeed. How are you, Tom?
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah,
very well, guys, and enjoying the chat, and just enjoying the list. The tweet was up from Bastien. Just to jump in, I mean, I'll need to hold my hands up here. I saw glimpses of today.
We're all in the same boat.
And what it was, I actually saw a tweet from, I don't know, actually, now I think about it, I was out on a job, and I saw a tweet when I was waiting for a taxi to go back to the office. And it was the fact that Alcaraz had turned around, I think, a love 30 to turn it into a hold in the second set. And then that's when I noticed the scoreline as him being a set down. And I'm just like, wow, okay, what is going on here? And again, the taxi took about 25 minutes, so I had it streaming on my Amazon Prime. And so I managed to catch the second set where Alcaraz was a breakdown. And then he basically broke back. And then that's when my taxi arrived. I got chatting to the guy. Forgot about the tennis at that point, but just thought to myself, I'm going to check back, and it'll be like, Alcaraz has won that set, and then he's went on to win the match. That's pretty much what.
Is that the TV I can see behind you, by the way?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's any action on there.
It's switched off by the look of it.
Yeah, I turned it off after you.
Okay, sorry. Oh, yeah, sorry.
You mentioned to turn it off.
Yeah, sorry.
So yeah, I just assumed that same as the Rusevuri match in Madrid, I'd just basically end up checking on the scores later on, and Alcaraz had pretty much either won the third set to 2-1 or something like that. So then it was just a weird one when I went onto like the TNNS app and I couldn't see the Alcaraz match there, and this was about 40 minutes later. I'm like, oh no, what is going on here? And that's when I saw the tie-break result. So yeah, still in shock, as Nick mentioned. And I thought it was quite interesting in that list that, the list that Bastian had put up, that the last time there was any kind of shock like this was, 6 years ago, I think 2017, and the Esteban Djokovic at the Australian Open. It just shows you how, even the later years of these guys, and now Alcaraz has been on the scene for about 12 months now, that there hasn't really been this kind of shock. I mean, you're looking there was one in 09, 12, 13, well, 2 in 13, 16, but there's been 6 years since this has happened in men's tennis. And I think, I'm not going to be one who's going to question Alcaraz, and I'm not somebody who is, somebody who goes drama after one loss. Everyone can turn up in different conditions, and there could, be whatever. But, it does beg the question. It shows you that the guy is mortal, and he's not invincible. And I think it just poses so many questions about Roland Garros now, because beforehand you had Nadal injured, Djokovic injured, or with an elbow issue. And, many were basically just already writing Alcaraz's name on the trophy, but it just throws so many more questions up. And again, it just adds to the intrigue. And it's one of the reasons I was about to tweet, but then I thought my boss follows me on Twitter and I might be out in a job. So I chose not to. But I was about to go, wowza, this is why we love tennis. And that's exactly it. It's why we love tennis, when a world 135 can take out a guy who's just been winning non-stop. So yeah, really good.
Yeah, absolutely. Nick, Tom brought up a good point about Alcaraz. For me, he's still the favorite right now. But what does it affect you? You're thinking, if you were to do a power ranking number one for the ATP side, would Alcaraz be in that first position? Or
I'm sure we're talking about Roland Garros, not Rome.
I meant Roland Garros? Did I say Rome?
Yeah, you didn't actually say. I was like, wait, what? He's still the favorite? And we're like, yeah, we didn't specify.
Well, he's pretty good.
He has somehow won Rome despite losing in the fourth round. We can't exactly say everyone's a winner in tennis. That's sadly not often the case. If you take the raw on paper results form, Alcaraz has been number one right now, going into Roland Garros. I still have reservations about how he is on slower conditions. I've never been fully convinced that he's comfortable in the slowest possible condition. He's good, he's one of the best, but against the very best, his game doesn't necessarily execute as well. I know he's a Barcelona champion, and that's kind of more traditional clay, but the strongest. Yeah, the strongest competitors really faced there is Tsitsipas, who he's got a very favourable head-to-head against. If he was playing prime, a fully fit Nadal there, or even Novak Djokovic, I think it would be a different story. So for me, I've never been comfortable saying Alcaraz is number one, and I'm definitely not comfortable putting him as favourite for the ATP side. For me, looking at how things are, I've actually always had Djokovic as my number one. Okay. Despite the injury, I've been confident he's going to recover. So yeah, for me right now, it's still Novak Djokovic.
And you, Tom?
Yeah, well, do you know, it's something I thought about afterwards, and I want to maybe pose it to you guys just while we're having the chat. Is if that was a 5-setter match today, and I know
I was just thinking the same.
We only caught glimpses of it, but if that was a 5-setter to match today, do we think that he would have turned it around?
Don't know, because I didn't watch the match, but I was thinking it just during the last 2 minutes of various points that were being made, that yes, you just don't know. And Alcaraz, has he had two sets down to 5 sets victory yet in his career? I'm not sure. I mean, he's only been on the scene for 2 years. I remember him having
did he lose to Berrettini?
He lost to Berrettini, in the 5th set tiebreaker, in Australia.
So he brought it back, but he lost.
He did, exactly, yeah. Berrettini, really, really good nerve actually from Matteo. It's an underrated victory, I think, on on the Italian CV. But I actually would still have him as my. By the way, just for those of you tuning in, thinking where's Badosa and where is Muchová? Well, we're just waiting for them to play for a couple of reasons. One, that one or two matches have obviously gone on a bit longer today. We've got on the court where they'll be taking. We've got Musetti is down a set to Tiafoe, but we've also had a couple of little spots of rain. So we had about 15 minutes of no tennis just now. But as soon as Muchová gets underway against Badosa, we will let you know. On top of that, we'll keep you abreast, of course, of the scores that are going on. Zverev is won the first set 6-4 and actually has a break point on my screen, at least, against JJ Wolf. And Tsitsipas is just getting underway as well. Tom and Nick, this is to both of you because it's basically kind of what we've just been saying. Yeah, I do think that would have been very interesting to see. Typically we see big favorites go 2 sets down in a Grand Slam, but then they win the third set, and then it's, then you're in trouble. We've seen it with Novak a lot in recent years. But I take Nick's points. It is true when we look at Monte Carlo and Rome being probably the most representative tournaments. We look at who wins Rome, and then if they go on to win Paris, and more often than not on both the WTA and ATP, they do. Monte Carlo, I think, is probably second in this list. Plus, they're both 1,000 events, and of course, I'm talking exclusively ATP regarding Monte Carlo. Plus, they're both 1,000 events, so it just adds to the narrative compared to, say, a 250 or a 500, such as Barcelona. But I do still have Carlos Alcaraz as my favorite. I mean, I agree Novak has the pedigree. I want to see how Novak does in the next 3 or 4 days. Maybe if he goes on to win Rome, I would shift him up a spot. But yes, I take Nick's point as well, because if we look at Alcaraz, he's played Rome once, he didn't win it. He's played Monte Carlo once and didn't play it this year, didn't win it. He's played Roland Garros twice or 3 times. I'm not sure right now. He lost to Struff, I know, a couple of years ago.
It's his second. This year will be his 3rd appearance at a Roland Garros.
So his win-loss record, and he didn't get to the semis, neither in Roland Garros. He also came up against somebody in Zverev, who I think is pretty good in Rome and in Paris. So when he lost last year. So I see the evidence that Nick has built. I just think that his win-loss record this year, his form, possibly more so in Barcelona than in Madrid, where I think people said that he was solid in Madrid without being spectacular. But he was also pretty spectacular in Latin America earlier on this year on the clay. And there's also doubts for me about Novak right now, but in the next 72 hours, he might dispel them. Nick?
Yeah, for me, it's about the matchups, less than about the matchups with the other top players, as much as anything else. Yes, you're. So like he lost to Zverev on a good day on a slow court, a player that he would have a very good matchup against in pretty much any other circumstance. And I know that we've got some questions about Novak's injury. I'm just looking at the past history and Novak bouncing back, and I don't really have any fitness concerns. It hasn't shown me any fitness concerns so far on this draw. If you were to put Djokovic versus Alcaraz in a 5-set match, Roland Garros, I would make Novak Djokovic the favourite. If you were to put Alcaraz against Rafael Nadal, a fully fit Rafael Nadal from a couple of years ago at Roland Garros, I would make Nadal the favourite. I would even say Holger Rune is a threat to Alcaraz in 5 sets at Roland Garros, depending on what kind of draw Rune's had. So that's more where I'm kind of coming from. These players who we know can and have tested Alcaraz. I'd even make Sinner a threat to him, and we know what Sinner can do. So that's my kind of question is, when you put, there's no question that Alcaraz is in the top 4 or 5 favourites for Roland Garros. What happens when he plays the others in that group? And I think he's at a disadvantage against most of them.
I actually tipped Sinner to win the tournament, not necessarily with any great deal of science. I just thought that Novak's situation, plus his side of the draw being so tough, that actually I think I have Sinner beating him in the quarters. And after his first match, Sinner lived up to those expectations. But then I think he looked a bit ropey at times yesterday against Shevchenko. Tom, what do you think about anything that Nick and I have just been saying about Carlos and Novak in particular?
Yeah, I mean, I do think it's dependent on what kind of Novak we have. Obviously, an all-firing Novak is pretty hard to see past him, but there has been doubts in terms of tournament results and that elbow that I referred to earlier on. Like you say, he had a shaky start to Rome, and then apart from the second set against Dimitrov. Which I don't know if you've discussed, but obviously there's been chat on Twitter about how Dimitrov's game suits Novak Djokovic. So I don't think you're going to be sitting there going on Novak's back just because he's beat Grigor Dimitrov. My thinking in terms of Roland Garros is, I think I see Nick's point. I side also with your point, John, in terms of, Alcaraz has just been in such hot form. I like Sinner. I like the thought of Sinner. He's just always been kind of there or thereabouts recently, and I'm sure there's going to be a time where that breakout will happen. But what I would say is it's just been such a kind of odd clay court swing in terms of Europe, because there's not really been anyone else emerging as dominant. As you had Rublev winning one week and he's not really been seen since. Then you had Rune winning one week, and I sometimes think he blows hot and cold. Rune, then Medvedev can play despite a lot of things. Medvedev can play on clay. I know he doesn't like it, but he can beat the likes of Zverev on clay. And then you've got Zverev as well. What kind of Zverev are we having? Is he getting better with each week? Is he coming back? He looked, despite he being a set down in that semi-final against Nadal, he was looking good. You weren't saying Nadal was winning this. Is he going to be a threat? Is he going to emerge if we don't have a fully fit Nadal? We don't have a fully fit Djokovic, and we've got maybe a struggling Alcaraz on the Roland Garros clay courts. And that's why I said earlier on, it is fascinating. But for me, you're still going to go with the golden oldies in terms of Djokovic and Alcaraz, just because he has just been so far ahead of people at points this season.
Yeah. Alcaraz is already a golden oldie. That's great.
No,
I got you. I'm still going with Alcaraz as my tip for Roland Garros, but like I say, the next 10 days to 2 weeks or 10 days can change, because we don't know whether Rafa's going to participate, or of course what kind of Rafa we're going to see participating, if at all. I think somebody told me that we may well find out in the next 72 hours. Regarding Rafa, I'm very skeptical, and I think we all need to be skeptical about videos posted and comments on Twitter. But I will say this: there were 3 people from as long as 5 weeks ago that were telling me he's not going to play any warm-ups. He's going to go into Rome is a big doubt. He's not playing Barcelona nor Madrid, etc., etc., etc. So those same people are also telling me it's 50-50 for Roland Garros, and Rafa has not yet played a practice set with his serve as yet, because apparently, even though it's the hip, there are still some issues, or have been, let's say, until this new treatment in the last few days. So I am listening to these people a little bit more loudly than I was, say, 6 weeks ago when they were telling me all this stuff, because they were basically saying, listen, I know. And I'm like, well, how do you know? Well, of course, they can't always tell me. And I'm like, okay, let's see what happens. And with every tournament he pulled out, I was thinking that's exactly what these 3 people have said. By the way, one of them has been on record, and that's Amy Lundy. She went on record saying he's not going to play any warm-up events, and that was 5 weeks ago. So she's one of the 3, at least I can say. And but right now I still think we don't know. I just want to see some of these videos where he's practicing intensively with serves and points, etc., until I think we've made a step forward. Anyway, Rafa Nadal tick. Unless Nick, you've got something to add to that?
No, I think you've kind of covered it off. At the minute, Rafa Nadal is just the big unknown. Of it all. It would be interesting to see how he does playing, if he is fully fit, or at least fit enough to make his way through a Roland Garros draw. How the lack of warm up is going to affect him. in those matches. I would imagine it's going to be a bit of a grind for him, but I would expect him to come through against most opponents. I've just looked up a stat, by the way, about just to round off the Carlos Alcaraz conversation, because you asked, has Carlos Alcaraz ever come from 2 sets to love down?
Okay.
The answer is no. The closest he ever came was Berrettini in Australia 21. He's come from 2 sets to 1 down 4 times.
And he was facing match points in the first round, was it last year, Roland Garros, in a 5-set match? But that's great. I'm glad you found that, Nick, because I was just thinking, I remember him being involved in a few epic 5-setters. I think he was involved in a 5-setter against Tsitsipas, maybe in New York about 18 months ago.
2021 US Open.
2021, which was probably his first. We were already aware of him, but it was his best Grand Slam sort of breakout moment, if you like.
That wasn't even a comeback. He was 2 sets to 1 up. Like, Tsitsipas came back and could have almost completed a comeback against him.
Yeah. And Tsitsipas, I think that same tournament he beat Murray, didn't he, in a 5-setter? So he was full of drama that year. In fact, he often is full of drama in New York for all sorts of different reasons. And I'm not talking about Carlos here. I'm talking about Stefanos Tsitsipas.
Oh, yes.
But anyway, let me just add one thing as well to the Carlos thing, and that's actually going to highlight something Damien said. I know some people are mentioning in the chat that he called this result today. I need to go back and watch that video. I was looking for it specifically for about 20 minutes today, trying to find the exact moment when he called it. From memory, or from what I recall from last night, he said, I think this could be the hardest match. But I think he did back down at the last moment from actually, because there was a moment when him and Mario, and they've done it a couple of times now, where they say, okay, what's going to be the shock tomorrow? And when they say shock, I think they ruled out, who did Medvedev play today? Zapata Miralles, was it today?
Yeah, that's right.
So they wouldn't count that. If Zapata Miralles had beaten Medvedev, that wasn't in the shock category. It's got to be bigger. So anyway, but at that moment, that was the time for Damien to go, I'm going for Alcaraz to lose. And he chose not to. He chose not to. He chose a different match. But I remember him certainly getting a lot of kudos for highlighting it as an extremely dangerous match and possibly Carlos's most dangerous en route to potentially winning the title. And I will clip it for him and maybe give Nostradamus a mention too.
Of interest, what did they go for their big shock?
You know what? You're going to have to get Damien again. I watched it all last night. I'm there, watching it. But I didn't. I went through the video today to try and find this this clip of him, because everyone was saying I say everyone, 3 people on social media were saying Damien called this. Damien called this. I retweeted it, by the way, and Damien, being Damien, he just sort of gives it a little like. But you'll get him on later. I'm sure he'll nuance it to make it closer to him calling it. But I need to get the evidence and clip it all up and etc. But anyway, one other thing that Damien said that I really did agree with, and he actually said this 2 or 3 weeks ago, which was the difference between him, Sinner, and Rune, this so-called new big 3, etc., is that actually the difference is that when they play each other, you don't know who's going to win. I think Rune and him have only played once, but obviously Sinner and him have been involved in some pretty epic matches, and I think their head-to-head is 3-3, maybe, something like that. It's really close anyway, and you have no idea. The problem is that Sinner and Rune are vulnerable elsewhere, such as, I think Rune lost to Davidovich Fokina in Madrid. Rune obviously losing to Rublev in Monte Carlo as well in the final. But often you're suddenly, like, at the end of the day going, oh, Sinner's out already, or Rune's out already. Whereas Alcaraz, despite his age, was super, super consistent and much better, winning in straight sets against all the other guys. However, that came undone today. But I think this will be a one-off for Carlos, and we'll see him being a big threat in Paris. Tom, let's bring it a bit closer to the present. We've got 3 matches on the go. I've got JJ Wolf in this match with Zverev, which seems to be lasting forever, but that may have been assisted by the rain delay. JJ Wolf, these first 3 games anyway, because there was the rain delay in between, have lasted forever. So there must have been lots of deuces. Tsitsipas is a break up, it looks like, on Sonego. What are your thoughts on Tsitsipas right now and also Paris, Tom?
I Tsitsipas has obviously got a proven track record in clay. He's won, plenty of big tournaments on clay. He got to the Roland Garros final 2 sets up a couple of years ago, and you could have sensed it as soon as he lost that third set, the way it was going to go, and it was meekly surrendered that final. I always remember just going, this guy's giving up. But Tsitsipas, again, I would touch on the fact that there's a little bit of the unknown. He lost to Struff last week when he was the favourite. I know his game and Struff's game, again, it's one of those, tennis is all about matchups. And I know that I think when he comes up against Struff, because he's got a deficit win-loss record. So I think with Tsitsipas, where he is at the moment, I think he's still a big-time player. He had that shoulder thing in North America where he obviously went out quite early. I think it was in Indian Wells, or maybe it was Miami. I think it was maybe Indian Wells. And he's not really kind of forced his way back into the picture too much since then, where you thought he might, springboard in the European clay. And he's not had as good a season as he usually does have at this time of year. So again, it's touching on. I think he'll have a big say. Maybe a top 4 in Roland Garros. But I think a win here, now that Alcaraz is out and he can't get past Alcaraz, and Djokovic, I know that'll be a big ask if he was to meet him. But I think a win here in Rome would firmly put Tsitsipas back in the French Open picture. Whereas I think a lot of people are maybe not considering him as strongly. I remember, I think it was last year, I had a fancy for Tsitsipas because of just the tennis he was playing. Whereas this year, I've been sitting here going, nah, I don't fancy him this year. But as I say, a win in Rome, and he could be totally back in the picture in a lot of people's eyes. And so, yeah, again, I hate saying it, that a lot of these players are unknown because of the various niggles that they've had over the course of the season. But Tsitsipas, again, comes into that category for me.
There's a funny comment here from Matthew, by the way. People speculating where Ghosty is. I put Ghosty in amongst the potential winners in Rome. But actually right now, I guess he has the same chance as Carlos Alcaraz. So yeah. Anyway, what do I want to say? Oh, and of course this year, but it was certainly the case last year, which is what made me think that Tsitsipas had at least a chance last year, was the draw. And bearing in mind, if we think about the 5, 6, 7, 8 players that might be on a potential list of finalists at least, they would be in very, very different places in the rankings. Obviously, you've got Carlos and Novak at 1 and 2. But where's Stefanos right now? 5, is he in the world? Something like that?
Yeah.
So we could see him on the same side as one of Carlos, or because Casper, I think, is still somehow number 4 in the world. I don't know how he's still number 4, but
he's still got 2 Grand Slam finals.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. We're coming up to those right now. I've got at least one of them. And so who's number 3 in the world? What's going? Oh, Daniel Medvedev, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, then because you've always that's the thing with Roland Garros. You've got Medvedev, which is the joker, because he's always ranked 2, 3, 4 pretty much going into this tournament. But because of that, you can sometimes get skewed draws. And this year could also be the same with, I don't know where Rafa will be ranked, 15 or 20, I imagine. If he ends up playing. Zverev as well, because of the injury that he had, missing all that tennis and his ranking dropping. But if he was to have a good run in Rome, he would, and the draw favored him, So you've got these players that are seeded in unusual. Whereas on a hard court, you'd have Medvedev at number 3, Casper 4, Stefanos 5, and the seeding would be much more balanced, and you're always going to get tougher draws than others. But amongst the sort of 8 or 10 contenders, they should fairly evenly be split. But on the clay, given the craziness amongst the rankings, you could have a draw where Novak, Rafa, Stefanos, Zverev are all on one half of the draw, and then the other half will be Carlos and Casper, basically. And you may have Rune as well. Where's Rune ranked these days? 7, something like that?
7, yeah.
7. So again, I think it's quite possible that he could end up. I mean, you could have Novak on. One of Novak or Carlos could end up being very lucky, and one of them could be very unlucky. Last year it was Stefanos, because he managed to get to the Rome final, and Rafa went out quite early. That changed everything and meant Rafa's seeding, I think, dropped to 5, and you ended up having such a lopsided draw where Stefanos, in theory, should have had a much more comfortable run to the final, but Holger Rune got in the way. But he was lucky to even get that far, to be honest. I think I think he's another guy who may have saved a match point in an early round as well. Stefanov. He certainly went 5 sets, surprisingly. Anyway, I think it's time for me to breathe and let Nick say something. I've got no idea what Nick's been looking at. He's been looking at some stats, no doubt.
I'm looking at the live rankings,
Okay.
just to kind of like look at where everyone's going to be at. Interestingly, top 8, whereas the exact order isn't necessarily locked in. We're pretty sure who they're going to be, unless somehow Francis Tiafoe wins in Rome, which at the minute, he's actually trying to come back in this second set at the minute. So that's the match I've got on.
Same. I think he's a set point down to Musetti 7.
Okay. Well, regardless, it's been barnstormer, so that could be quite a fun one to watch as we wait, because obviously Badosa and Muchova follow this match. But the live ranking at the minute confirmed: Carlos Alcaraz will be the number 1 seed at Roland Garros. Number 2, Djokovic, and then Medvedev, Ruud, Tsitsipas, Rublev, Rune, and Sinner are going to be your top 8. Rafa is currently set to be the 15th seed.
Okay.
Depending on other results, obviously, because Coric and Musetti are still in the tournament. They could overtake him. Zverev is looking set to drop to 27 if he was to say lose in his this JJ Wolf match. He would be ranked 27. If he wins the JJ Wolf match, then he picks up a couple of points, but he'd still be like number 27. He'd need to really make an impact in this tournament to get back up towards the top 20. I think those are kind of your main guys. I don't think anyone outside of the ones I've just named are worth kind of mentioning, but that's sort of, this is where we're looking at. So you're quite right. Zverev is definitely going to be a wild card in the draw, because if he stays outside the top 16, he's there as a potential nightmare 3rd round opponent for someone, which would be insane, and potentially giving him a big win, because Zverev likes Roland Garros. He's a 2-time semi-finalist, very close to a final a couple of times.
Yeah.
Or
5-setter, and then the injury, of course. Yeah.
I would not be surprised to see him in a Roland Garros final, which is why he's rightly on Tom's list, I think. So that was kind of what I was looking up, was that match. But that's where we're standing. Yeah, Rafa Nadal seeded 15. If this trend of meeting Djokovic earlier and earlier in tournaments is in Roland Garros is going to happen, given they were in the final in 2020, semi-final in 21, quarter-final in 22, last 16 meet up in 23.
Last 16, yeah. I'm just trying to think, by the way, I wonder if, Nick, this could also be a little tiny thing. If he's ranked 15 or 16, or seeded 15 or 16, that would put him, as you say, as a potential 4th round opponent. But if he went to 17, then he would then suddenly be a potential 3rd round opponent for various people, of which Novak and Carlos would be among them. I mean, that would just get. But I think there's a couple of things. Who's he vulnerable to? Is it Musetti's behind him? And
Musetti is currently ranked 18. If he was to beat, Musetti would have to win Rome to overtake Rafa.
Okay.
There's no other way you can do it. And then the only other one he's vulnerable to would be Coric, who. Let's have a look at that. Quick calculations. Has to get to the final.
Yeah. So that's unlikely, I guess. So he probably will be seeded 15 or 16. But if it was a Coric, can Coric and Musetti meet in the final? That's the one combination.
Think so.
Okay, so then maybe for Rafa can't drop to 17. I'm not sure. Anyway.
No, they can't. They could be in the quarters in the final.
Yeah. Did Tsitsipas win that first set, by the way? I think he did. Yeah. Oh no, it's 5-3. Sorry, just gone off my screen.
But
I see Musetti has won that set
Yeah.
there finally. As you said, the first set between Musetti and Tiafoe. I've actually got Wolf against Zverev on my screen right now, but the first set between Musetti and Tiafoe was very exciting. In terms of the fact, I did think that maybe Tiafoe would get affected by the crowd, and maybe it's just me thinking that, and then of course it materializes. And Tiafoe goes an early breakdown. In fact, to be honest with you, he was struggling to hold serve throughout the first 3 or 4 games. But next thing I know, Tiafoe wins that set. However, Musetti's got it back to 1 set all, and so therefore we will have to wait a bit longer for the Muchová match. I know that we've got Tom for another 40 minutes. What I'm going to do, therefore, I'm going to let you and Tom just have a chat about whatever tennis is going on, because I know Tom is only here until 1:30. So I will depart and I'll be around.
Okay. Thanks, John, for coming on.
Yeah, thanks, John. I've got a question for you, Nick.
Go for it.
Because I knew that I had the honour of coming on with you today. I was having a look at a couple of your tweets, and I know that you mentioned, because we were talking, and it kind of ties in with the Tiafoe Musetti match, and John talking about the crowd, and I think you'd said, "Oh, the Rome crowned it," or something else. And I just wanted to kind of discuss that in terms of, I've noticed myself that the crowd have been, Italian, shall we say, volatile, maybe very loud, picking their players very, very early. I know that Sasha Bublik was a favourite in the 2 matches that I've watched of him. So yeah, can you kind of just tell me more about what you think about the Rome crowd?
I mean, yeah, let's say Rome specifically, because the crowds we see in Turin are a little different for the ATP finals. Yeah, the Rome crowd definitely doesn't. I don't know why John's showing my Eurovision tweet. That's not particularly relevant. But certainly it was after the Krejcikova Ostapenko match that I was tweeting, because Krejcikova just got rattled by the crowd, kind of not really settling, not really quotes behaving, because they were moving around during points and talking during second serves. Someone's dog was barking, I think, at one point. It's like the Italian attitude seems to be quite relaxed in terms of they seem to just want to be able to move around, a bit like the Americans in some way, actually. But then you're right, when they pick a player either to support or to root against, they are very brutal towards someone they don't want to win. We saw that famous Shapovalov moment from, I think it was last year, when he told the crowd to, and I'm abbreviating here, abbreviating, shut up. We've seen a couple of moments where some of the women's WTA players have done the same thing. Rune just lapped it up and went, yeah, do you know what? I'm just going to be the bad guy. I'm going to be the heel here. He just loved it. That was like his Medvedev moment, which is one of the reasons that I'm endeared to Medvedev after that US Open instance. So, the crowds here are a little rowdy, to say the least, in their own special way. Yeah.
It's a thinker when you mentioned Rune. I find, and I mentioned this in one of the other Madrid chats that I was having, Rune does seem to like that now. He was playing against Sinner. I think it might have been Monte Carlo, and he was trying to play up to the crowd, and obviously he came back and he won that match. And I just wonder if, he likes to be the bad guy now. I know it didn't really work out for him in Madrid. He just totally lost all composure after, the ball mark incident. And we've seen that with Madrid crowds. They picked, obviously, Foki was a home player, so there was no surprise there. But I wonder about, like, Rune basically trying to play like the Medvedev role, and Medvedev uses it so well to spur him on and make him play better shots. I wonder if Holger Rune is trying to do the same. Do you think tennis crowds then, a reference to the Madrid incident, you've got the Medvedev US Open incidents, are tennis crowds getting worse at all, or more? Do you think?
No, I don't think they're getting worse. It's very difficult to generalize. For example, when I went to the Billie Jean King Cup tie between GB and France, I thought the crowd was rather flat.
Oh, right.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there was like one individual who was trying to put off Caroline Garcia and Kristina Mladenovic, who was very quickly, well, not very quickly, probably not quickly enough for the French, but eventually ejected from the stadium.
Yeah.
Well, if you can call it a stadium, the arena, so I don't think they're getting worse. I think it depends on the context, it depends on the match.
Depends who's playing, I suppose.
Yes, exactly. And sort of how they interact with it as well, and how vehement they are towards home players.
Yeah.
So the Italians are obviously particularly strong. The French crowd can get very boisterous when the French, all the whistling with the French players, whereas you don't really get that in the same way with an Australian or British or even an American crowd. So I think context does strongly apply, but no, I don't think tennis crowds are getting worse.
I was going to say, tell that to Medvedev in the Nadal final, where today is the day that somebody's dream died. After the match, when in between serves, I think they were shouting in between his first and second serve.
I mean, you could say that. I mean, this is probably, I'm referencing probably a match that I think John might have actually been at one point, or at least he might be more familiar with is the People's Final at Wimbledon in 2001. That had a almost football match atmosphere there, and you could probably say after that match, our tennis crowd's getting worse because it was very different to the usual lot that you get at Wimbledon. That was a lot of fun. They really got involved there. Okay, yeah, no, John wasn't actually there. I don't know why I thought he was. Interestingly, although there's a lot of chat about rain right now, the Musetti Tiafoe match is keeping going, much to Tiafoe's frustration with it.
Yeah, Musetti's just broke on where I am on the stream.
Oh, you're slightly ahead of me then.
Am I slightly? I often seem to be. I don't know.
You've obviously got good internet where you are.
Well, tell that to last week. I was trying to get on last week. I think it was on Friday, was it? And my Wi-Fi had just kaput, wasn't working, so I had to bail. But yeah, this is an interesting one. Again, I think we can't hear what Tiafoe is saying to the umpire, but I've seen clips on social media. I had it on just before I jumped on. That was what was on in the background. Tiafoe has seemed a little bit irked by the crowd as we speak about from the off. I know in the first set he played an underarm serve. I don't know if were you watching at that point? I
literally walked in from work at 5 to 6.
Yeah, well, I was similar. I was 5 past 6 and then had a quick glance at it and John said get on. So I saw he played an underarm serve. Musetti got to the ball but put it long. That riled up the crowd. He was getting boos. He was clipping his ear as he walked back to the chair and obviously went on to win the first set. And I think, as you alluded to, the crowd have been kind of on him since then. He hasn't been happy with a couple of calls that I can see. And he's now a breakdown in the third with the Musetti crowd behind him. So he might be hoping for rain at this stage. And hopefully,
I mean, it is raining. That's the thing. They're playing through it.
Yeah. Well, this is what I text John saying, "Oh no, rain," and he said we're live because I also heard a commentator saying that there were some of the officials in the player tunnel, so as if they were getting ready to come out and just get everything away. So, and then they showed a close up of one of the crowd, and you could see rain coming down. So yeah, I didn't think it would see this far. So yeah, it is a surprise.
I saw a tweet. I can't remember who it's from, but kind of commenting on the end of the WTA match between Anna Bondar and Zhang Qinwen, which was completed in pretty much pouring rain. And Bondar was not happy about this. Zhang managed to serve out, but it was I didn't see any of this, but apparently, according to this person, it was they were just playing through in conditions that like 99%, or you would expect a tennis match to be suspended in. So maybe the Rome organizers, aware of the potential challenges they're going to be having with the weather, are just trying to plow on through as much as possible, which fortunately you can get away with on clay, but only to a certain extent.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think they're playing catch up from Saturday, where they lost a lot of matches from about, I don't know, I think it was around about 7 p.m. UK time, so 8 p.m. In Italy. Some matches had to finish the next day, and I think, all the criticism that Madrid took in terms of their scheduling, maybe the Rome organisers are conscious of that, putting on players too late. They don't want to have to ban anyone from doing victory speeches at the end of the week. So, I think there'll be an element of the organisers have maybe indicated to match referees and umpires to say, unless it's, puddles on court, keep on playing.
Would surprise me. Look, Tiafo seems to think it's ending. Interesting. Yes, it's not, as Rennie Stubbs has pointed out, it's kind of not really being consistently enforced. That's the thing.
So I wonder, is there other courts being suspended then? I mean, obviously, I'm just on the TFO stream. I wonder if others.
John could probably tell us because he's watching Wolf Zverev whether anyone else is. Zverev and Wolf has been suspended.
Right. Okay. So interesting that one.
Tsitsipas and Sonego, I don't think that score's updated for a while. But you know what? It depends on how big the centre is, because it's very plausible that it could be raining really hard on one side of the complex and not as much on the other. So I don't know the layout of Rome.
In terms of when it comes to tournaments like Rome, do you think it's maybe time for them to, invest in a roof or at least one of the courts? What's your thoughts on that?
Given Rome seems to be resistant to line calling technology, I think a roof might be also very slow in the coming.
Yeah, very good point. Very cool. Well, they're going to have to, aren't they, in 2025? So they'll have to, start getting the checkbook out and kind of implementing it then. But yeah, you're probably right. There'll not be a roof for some time, but you never know. Depends how much they want the matches on. As Musetti plays a winner from on my stream, he is 15-all, 2-love up in the decider, and he's now baying the crowd. He's now getting them to get behind him, and I suppose that's the beauty of having a home tournament. You can call on the crowd to kind of G you up a little bit. Yeah,
and that's why we need tournaments where that has a home player, because it does add something to the event, the story of it.
I think the all-time one for me, and as a big Andy Murray fan, was last year, and Gilles Simon when he's serving for the match, and then the home crowd just got him, and Andy Murray couldn't see it out, and he just came back, and that was a great story last year in Paris. So yeah, I know what you mean. It does add to it.
One of those few times we were okay with Andy Murray losing.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Through gritted teeth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well done, Gilles. Well done. It's like when you're nominated for an award and you don't win.
I just think about the scene from Friends where like Joey just
that's
magnanimous face. Yeah.
He's raging. So there's, I think Blair Blair Henley has said, for those wondering about the night times like sunscreen situation, he says it works better than eye black for decision glare from the lights.
I've no idea what that's about. I'm going to photos.
I think you'll need to. That can be the first thing to ask John if he pops back on later on. Like, why are we talking about JJ Wells nighttime zinc sunscreen? I assume has he got like the cricketers have something he'll probably have across like the war paint. Again, I've not seen any of that match so far, but apparently it's dripping. So,
I just say there's some fun tennis going on the grandstand court right now, despite the rain. Like, lovely creative point from Tiafo to kind of double drop shot Musetti. It's nice seeing these two going up against each other. Obviously, very high caliber tennis players, and the creativity are on display. And the fight from Tiafo, at least in the first couple of sets, has been brilliant. Although that slow-mo showing how much rain there was. But
the umpire's down. He's checking the court. He's now, I assume, went to one of the ATP officials to say, look, I think we should be coming off here. I think Tiafoe's already had a complaint about the conditions. That may have been what the discussion was earlier on. I think maybe they're actually basically saying we're going to keep on going at TFO. I don't know where you are in the stream, Nick, but you may see this. TFO is not happy. I can't hear it, obviously, what he's saying, but he does not look happy at all. Quite animated.
Yeah. He's getting animated right now as we speak. So you're probably about 30 seconds.
So, I mean, what happened? What do you think? I mean, obviously, I'm not asking you to be a weatherman, but say the rain comes and calls it off for the evening. Should there be any criticism aimed at the Rome organisers? I mean, they can't help the weather.
No.
What could they do differently?
No, other than adding a roof, which is expensive and complicated. I mean, how long does it take Roland Garros to get one? The only criticism they can have is like the double standard of allowing one match to keep going and another one to stop. But it does seem to be very context dependent as the officials now coming on to argue with Tiafoe. It's one of those things. They can't control the rain. They can control how they deal with it. I can see they're trying to like plow through as much as possible, but I don't think they're going to be that behind if they have to put some extra matches on tomorrow. I don't think the players involved are going to mind too much. It's kind of how it is. I think if there was a choice between playing super late today or playing early tomorrow, they'd go with playing early tomorrow.
Yeah.
I think the Rome can't do a lot wrong. Oh, they've called it.
I think so. I mean,
they're getting up. They're getting up.
The changeover has been ages. TFO's packing his stuff. I mean, I know we don't have any tennis, so it's maybe a good time. You were talking about being a fun match. I watched a couple of really good fun matches. Even when Djokovic was playing in his first round against Echeverry, I was already on Ben Shelton, and I really enjoyed that match. It was on the Amazon Prime stream, no commentary. Sometimes that's even better.
Agreed.
And it was just a really fun match. Tweeners, underarm serve galore. Bublik, who's obviously very entertaining, standing from the return right up inside the court. It was just a fun match. Is there any fun matches that you've watched that you've enjoyed so far in Rome?
Due to scheduling, it's been challenging to watch a lot of matches. So I saw Sabalenka Kenin, and I enjoyed that as a kind of a clay court masterclass. Watched Krejcikova Ostapenko. That was just chaos.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on Ostapenko? And I mean, that was another bagel today. And she's an ex Roland Garros winner. She's a fun character, shall we say, quite spicy.
I enjoy watching her blast winners from anywhere on the court when she's on. It's just breathtaking. I remember very well watching that RG 2017 final where she somehow turned it around against Halep to win it. I think, but the other aspects of Ostapenko's personality, the fact her game is actually quite one-dimensional, also kind of it kind of goes against her a little bit for me. And sort of how far she can progress, but there's no doubt that like the one or two tournaments a year, she turns it on and she's unbeatable. And it may well be that this Rome tournament's going to be that, which means that she's going to flop pretty hard at Roland Garros. It's tricky to say, but yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on Ostapenko. Is that tennis is breathtaking to watch, and she's definitely the kind of character that helps make tennis really entertaining.
Absolutely. And just for anyone who may have just joined us, the play has been suspended because of rain. We haven't been given any indication as yet as to when it might be back. But yeah, the players are all off court in all courts now. The last match was Tiafoe and Musetti at 1-all, and Musetti a break up. So yeah, I know that some people in the chat have been asking, when Badosa's on, etc. So just to say that the play is suspended.
Yeah, we don't know when it's going to be back. Obviously, the Badosa match has got to wait for the end of Musetti Tiafoe. The Swiatek match, who obviously we're also potentially thinking of covering, that we're planning on covering, That's not going to be until after Sonego and Tsitsipas finish, and they're only one set into that. So this is either going to go very late in Rome because it's 8 over there, or it's not going to happen, and it's really going to depend on what happens with the rain.
And I can see John, claiming his friend status with Ostapenko. Do you think one chat equals a friendship? Do you, Nick?
Yeah, obviously. I've become friends with someone after one conversation, so there's no reason why not. And I think Ostapenko is more personable off court than maybe sometimes her on court persona lets on.
I agree. Yeah, no, I agree. I saw her arguing today. I didn't see the match, but again, I saw a clip of her telling the umpire, I forget her name, that she'll never ever umpire another one of her matches. Did you see that?
I was aware of it, yes. There's definitely been some somewhat, I would call them entitled outbursts over the years from Ostapenko.
Yeah, I mean that just kind of, it does highlight the various calls that we've had this year already. We're not even a week into it. You had the Murray incident, which he was obviously the ball was out, and he made some good points. I think Djokovic had something similar in his Echeverry match, or it might be in the Dimitrov, where he was complaining about a call. And it just obviously highlights the need for technology, especially in clay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think technology is bulletproof.
Okay. Yeah.
I think that there have been confirmed instances where the technology has been misaligned and has resulted in incorrect calls. That being said, I prefer watching tennis matches with electronic line calling because it flows better. And I think there's a little bit less controversy in arguing, slowing the play down. So I think it's a net benefit to have electronic line calling, especially since with clay, you've got the human element of, potentially picking the wrong mark, which seems to have happened a couple of times recently.
There's Jake. Jake's backing you up, saying that Nick and I are
good friends. Enjoy. Follow Jake. He's Mr. Country Life on Twitter. Which clearly means he's probably trying to butter me up. But anyway, So I think the direction towards electronic line calling is an overall positive, but I'm in no rush for it to happen because I don't think it's a significant enough improvement to rush it through or anything like that.
And does that include, Madrid's Fox 10? Are you including that in that chat?
Yeah, I don't have an issue with Fox 10. I don't think there's been any major problems with it, have there?
No, not really. I think there was, obviously there was the Davidovich, Vikina and Holger Rune incident where Foki was arguing with the umpire. It was basically saying that the technology was wrong, but I think in the end that it was actually proved that the technology had been proved right, and that was the kind of point that Rune was trying to make when he walked over, and they all thought that he'd stamped in the mark when actually I think he just had a look, and that's when it all kicked off in that match. So no, I think you're right. I think as usual, Nick, what you say, it shows that you've thought about it beforehand, and you've got quite a kind of a thinking man's brain behind it, any kind of opinion on it. So yeah, I think you're right. I think I like the idea as well with technology. I like the era that we had, where you had the challenges, and I know that may be going away a little bit, but it added that a little bit, of it's maybe not the same as VAR, but you're sitting there going, oh, is it going to be in or out? And it would all come down. Everyone in the stadium, I remember at TV, all the commentators, the players are even watching the screen. They go, is this going to be in or out? And there was, I think, especially with Federer, I think Del Potro final, I think there was a big call, wasn't there, when it came to the challenges, and I can remember watching it going, oh, this is absolutely brilliant television. So I think that will be missed in 2025 if it just all becomes the electronic, especially in the ATP. I like that element of it. I was thinking the other day, like, what was it Cyclops at Wimbledon? I always been younger, remember that, and as soon as the ball went out, there was just a big beep. And I just remember those days. And I just think it's just so like it's come so far since then.
When did Cyclops? When was Cyclops? Because I don't remember watching Wimbledon much with it.
I think that was and other. I'll be wildly wrong here, but my prediction would be late 90s, early noughties. Would I be completely wrong? And again, I'm not really 100% how the technology worked, because would it have beeped if like a player had stepped across the baseline? Would that have beeped there as well?
I think they were having some issues with it beeping when it shouldn't have. I know about that much.
Yeah.
I remember there being issues with the technology with Cyclops. Showing my age, but that's just out of my tennis watching era
experience.
Being able to follow it. I think the first Wimbledon I kind of.
Oh, there we go. Championships 1980, Johnson.
Okay.
So that's, I told you, I'd be totally completely.
Okay. So probably before any of us were born.
Yeah. I knew John would know. He just searched for it.
Yeah. My tennis watching memory kind of starts with 2001 or 2002. Like in terms of remembering specific Wimbledons. I remember having it on, but in terms of like paying attention. That's the furthest back I can kind of go.
And Federer Sampras, then that kind of always. Do you have that image in your head?
No. I was probably I think I just missed that one. I think the first real memory I have that's kind of stuck with me is remembering, I think, Tim Henman getting to the 2002 semis.
Right.
I think that's kind of where I remember like a specific moment sticking in my brain from Wimbledon. Like Federer's first few titles were a bit of a blur. That would be here we go. John's copying pasting it. Okay, so it is. So Cyclops was around at other tournaments. I also need to apologize to Jake because I got his Twitter handle wrong. So I don't know whether I've mixed him up with another Twitter user or he's changed it.
You were calling him a friend as well. He's no longer your friend because you're.
Yeah, this is what happens with all my friendships. I put my foot in it at some point.
Well, that gives a good opportunity to anybody who isn't subscribing to Talking Tennis, who is enjoying the chat this evening. Make sure you get subscribing. We're close to 2,000 followers, so you could get us over the line. And also my Twitter handle is on my tag on my handle on the window. It's at Tom Grant Journal. If you want to follow for some irrelevant tweeting.
I don't think everything is very relevant, Tom. Although I don't see a lot of activity from you on Twitter. But it's probably because like my feed's clogged up with other things.
Well, yeah, no, I try and tweet more, but I've got recently. I've 8 months into having a young son, so sometimes my ability to tweet has to wait until the 8-9 o'clock. But I was about to raise this. I had an Italian guy, and Mario would have loved me for it. I had an Italian guy respond, a quote tweet that. And there's you've been dumped by Jake.
Wouldn't be the first time.
But I had an Italian guy tweet or quote tweet that tweet on Saturday, and it was in Italian. Obviously, I didn't know what it says, but I managed to translate it. And he says, "I am living for these tweets," and I was all proud that a guy was loving my tweets in Italian. So yeah, just a bit of fun because the girlfriend, she basically had me watching Eurovision for 4 hours on Saturday.
Given you probably subjected to tennis for 4 hours, it's probably fair.
Absolutely, mate, and especially during Grand Slams where she pretty much doesn't see me. It was funny. I had my son on August the 25th last year, and it was banging, starting off the US Open, and I was like, I'll take the night shifts with the wee man when he was home. And what I did is he just slept beside me, and I just watched tennis all through the night because it was on paternity. And she would come at me and go, "You do know you're meant to be sitting there looking after the baby every night." I'm like, "I do look after him, he sleeps." But she's like, "But it's not an excuse for you just to stay up all night and watch tennis." And I was like, "Well, it just happened at a great time." So, when my son was first born, hopefully that makes him become a big tennis fan and maybe a future Wimbledon winner.
That's you probably need a few more reruns, a few more rerun sessions.
He's liking sport though. He likes sport. Whenever sport's on the telly, he just sits and he just stares and he glazes over loving sports. So I do think I've got a sports fan there, and I'm a big sports fan as well. So it's always going to be in the television. So fingers crossed. We'll get him down to the local tennis club early.
See, you heard it here first. Tom Grant's going to move from journalist and broadcaster to tennis coach.
Tennis coach.
He'll be on the tour in the players' box.
Yep. Tom Nadal. I'll be like Tony Nadal. And once I've got my son up and to the best, I'll then go and train and coach other players come up and come, and that's it.
It's a solid plan there, Tom.
Thanks very much. Well, I might, if John wants to jump, I have a meeting at, in fact, 7:30. There we go. We're at 1930. Believe it or not, we've managed to make 2 subscribers since we've come on there tonight, because it was definitely at 1928. I don't know if John wants to jump on while the place is.
I'll probably wrap it up as well, to be honest, because I have obviously just gotten from work, so it's probably a good opportunity for me to get some food whilst we wait for the tennis to return.
Yeah, I'll be back on probably about 8:30, 8:45, available for some more talking tennis. But yeah, it's been a good chat with you, Nick. Always interested to hear your thoughts on the sport that we do all love. Let's again, anyone who has been enjoying it, give us a follow, especially Jake Davies. If you do know Nick and he hasn't just called you out, give us a follow and you can see more of him.
Good call. So you follow Jake Davies at Jake Davy 5, and you can follow me at Nick_B Carter, and Talking Tennis at Talking Tennis TT. Thanks everyone for joining. Hopefully we'll start the stream back up depending on play. Regardless, we'll see you again.
Top man. Cheers, guys.
Thanks for tuning into this watch along. While there's a break in play, here's a reminder to hit the like button, subscribe and click that notification bell. Your support helps to keep the channel going. While we're here, you can now become a member to enjoy perks including badges for the live chat, but also bonus material such as interviews with top players from both ATP and WTA tours. The membership link is pinned in the live chat. You can also follow us on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. So whether it be serves or volleys, forehands or backhands, serve bots or drop shots, we've got you covered. Whether that be via our website, talking-tennis.com, where you can read features and interviews from our top writers. Or if you prefer us in audio form, you can subscribe to our podcast on Apple, Amazon or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts from. Remember, we offer you wall-to-wall coverage via our regular watch-alongs, magazine shows such as Nick's WTA Weekly or Damien and Mario's ATP version. Plus, we deliver top content from people on the ground, actually at the tournaments, so you get even nearer to the action. So, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on all things tennis.
You've been to the French Open final. Your breakthrough, at least standout result at the beginning of your career, was on grass against Venus. You've been very solid on the hard courts. Is there a slam in particular that you go, I think that's, if I'm going to get one, the first one might come here, there or where?
Well, I don't know. I mean, everyone, I'm like, I think this is the first one. So I don't know. I mean, obviously now going to the French, I do have a lot of confidence on the surface, but I'm not really thinking about that. I feel like, you know, in the past I was, and it gave me some like defeats that I feel like I shouldn't have lost, maybe more so my head. So going in now, I mean, I feel like, you know, everyone could be the one, but I think I have to just take it a match at a time and just feel it out and enjoy it. I think when you focus too much on the destination, you don't enjoy the journey there. So now I want to focus more on the journey, and you know, if the destination gets there, that's great.
Hey Nick, how's it going?
Hey, John. Going all right. Going all right. Well, I think we were rudely interrupted there.
Yeah, but it wasn't the biggest surprise ever. I mean, the last 8 days has been full of tweets and suggestions about rain in Rome, and we saw a few snippets of it today. I think that according to the Twitter account, they are due back on court to warm up right now.
Yeah. So on the stream I'm on, the covers are off. There are people on the court. I don't see any players yet, but they should be out fairly shortly. Which match are you still keeping an eye on the Wolf Zverev court?
I was, but let me tell you right now, the German producer that basically I follow, if you like, in terms of what I'm watching, they decided to show the Alcaraz match from earlier,
right?
And it should be just about perfect because it should be finishing in the next minute or two. Alcaraz looks like he's about to hold serve to force a tie break. What I'm going to do, and I hope this is going to work, I'm going to share the aforementioned comments from Senor Kust from last night. Let's see if this works. Tell me if you can hear this.
But this is also something that can make me look like an absolute genius tomorrow. But
can you hear it, Dan? Nick?
Yeah, I can hear it. That was the thumbs up.
Great, here we go. Sorry.
This is also something that can make me look like an absolute genius tomorrow. I think Fabian Marozsan will push Alcaraz. There's the chance that he wins the match is really so much higher to me than like what he's being presented as. Obviously, there's like a very high variance with Marozsan as a player because he just has a balls to the wall aggression style. It's not consistent. It's never going to be. But if he's like on one of his better days, he just really has the play style where he takes the racket out of Alcaraz's hands. This is something you kind of need to do against him, I suppose. If he's serving well too. If he's just playing as he usually is. So getting a good serve in and then just taking the ball early, blasting it, never caring about the potential of missing his shots, trying to finish every single point in less than 4 or 5 shots in the rally. I think this is the sort of tennis that can really take out all the assets that Carlos has if executed to like absolute perfection. So in that sense, I'm not sure if he's gonna bring it tomorrow, but there is an outside chance there. I do see it. I do see it, and I'm very, very happy that we are finally getting a chance to just check out Marozsan on the big screen. Well, on the big screen. I wanted to say on the big
big stage.
I want to say big stage. Yeah. Jesus Christ. Yeah, I'm sorry. As I said, I just woke up. Anyway, I'm very happy that we're finally getting that chance. Before this week, I hadn't even realized that he never played an ATP Tour main draw. Like when I stopped to think about it, I was definitely like, he probably hasn't played one, but maybe somewhere over the years.
So that gives us a little taster of Damien's analysis. I think it's very close. There was a moment when I thought he was going to say take out Alcaraz, but I think he said take out some of the tools that Alcaraz has. By the way, they're showing the match point right now, so they skipped large parts of the tiebreak, I guess, because. And there we go, Madison pulling it off. Mark Petchy, by the way, has described it. Hi, Debanga. Yeah, they are now getting underway again in Rome, and I'll bring us to that in a second. Mark Petchy, by the way, has said it's one of the biggest shocks in tennis history. But maybe he was getting carried away.
I think he's getting a little carried away.
Mark Petchy, friend of the show.
Friend of the show, yes. Look, here's the thing with best results is. It's Carlos Alcaraz, who is a one-time Grand Slam champion. You shared a tweet from Bastian Fashan before.
Yeah.
All the other examples were big three in Grand Slams. This is Carlos Alcaraz, who is so far, whilst a very, very good player, he is, he's not quite as established in the same way, despite his obvious talent. He is, and it's also the Rome Masters. So on paper, yes. I mean, I do have a spreadsheet somewhere of all the world number one losses and the lowest one to beat. I think the lowest ranked player to beat a world number one in the men's side is a 200 and something. I believe I'd have to go dig it out, but it was Daniel Nestor beating Stefan Edberg in the.
Oh, okay.
Was Daniel Nestor playing that long?
Yeah, maybe
in a Davis Cup.
Oh, okay.
In Davis Cup, I'm going to get it up, see if I got it right, but it's on my other device. No, do you know what? It's going to take me ages to search that, and no one wants to see that. But it's
1992, maybe it happened. Daniel Nestor's stunning upset of Stefan Edberg.
Yeah, Daniel Nestor, 1992. Pretty sure he's the lowest ranked player ever to beat a world number one.
238. And he was 19. So I guess Edberg was sort of coming towards the end and Nestor was at the beginning. So, yeah.
92 would have been around. Yeah, and Edberg was about to be dethroned as number one by Jim Courier, but he still ended the year number two.
Okay.
I think he was in the Australian Open final in 93, retired in 94, but still kind of in the seeding range. He kind of retired before he really ended. It kind of ended up. His decline became really deep, but he was still a force on the tour when he stopped. But yeah, there you go. That's my somehow dug out of my brain. The lower. So if you want to say on paper, that is the biggest pure ranking alone. That is the biggest shock in tennis history.
Yeah, nice one.
Well, men's tennis history, anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. What about on the women's side? What shocks? What about? I mean, it's all context and which round and where what's going on in the tennis world at the time. Serena's semi-final defeat in New York as she was on the verge of a Grand Slam. That was seismic. Is the word I use to describe Soderling beating Nadal, and I think that would rank alongside that, perhaps.
Agreed. Yes, in that same category as the Soderling beating Nadal, especially since Vinci, she was down in that match. She was so underranked in comparison, and Serena, like that draw, just opened up. It was an open goal for Serena in many ways, and I think that's still regarded as maybe her most painful defeat by her fans.
Okay. Yeah. Makes sense. What year was that, by the way?
2015.
2015, yeah. Just Googling it now. Yeah, I think because, of course, the closeness to getting the Grand Slam, the fact that it would have then put her on, in terms of slams won, equal to Margaret Court. Those two things, would have, her place in tennis history is pretty secure, but it would have cemented her standing as the greatest women's player of all time. I think in many people's eyes, she still is, but that would have cemented the stats at least. Stats is something that Novak Djokovic is keen to cement as well. Have you caught any of his tennis in Rome?
No, he's just to be blunt. No, I mean, I'm going to be honest. This Musetti Tiafoe match was the first ATP tennis that I've watched in Rome. Djokovic hasn't played anyone that I thought could give him a decent match. Like Dimitrov obviously took a set off him, but like Dimitrov, as has been said before, just has a game style that Djokovic is very comfortable with. And so I just basically went, I tend to watch what I think is going to be the most competitive match. And I didn't think, and that's why I usually watch WTA. For me, I haven't seen a match Djokovic is in where I'm like, I'm going to see how he's doing. Given he's beating opponents he should be beating, that's a positive given where he was with his elbow. The real test is going to be how's he going to hold up against a higher caliber opponent on clay. Cam Norrie could be interesting. Took a set off him at Wimbledon on grass. That would be, I could see him maybe causing some frustration. However, I think more likely what's going to happen is he's going to play Holger Rune in the quarterfinals. That's going to be the big test, and that's where we're going to really see where Novak Djokovic is at, if that's what happens, provided Alexei Papirin doesn't provide the next big upset of Rome.
Yes, indeed. There's been many, okay. What would be safe is to say there's none more a bigger upset in Rome than Alcaraz's defeat this year to Madison. Do you think that that's probably the biggest shock of the year? I think that sounds about right to me.
I would say I'm willing to go with that as the biggest shock of the year, men's and women's.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What else? I mean, I know Rafa lost early in Australia, but there was all sorts of things swirling around Rafa at the time.
Wasn't really it wasn't a surprise. We knew Rafa wasn't in a great shape.
Yeah.
So no, it wasn't. It was a disappointment.
Cam Norrie, they've not played each other on clay. That's what I thought. Cam Norrie and Djokovic. So I think it could be interesting. I would actually probably err towards 3 sets for this match anyway. Possibly because, as I say, it's on clay as well. I think indoor hard would certainly favour Novak, and maybe even outdoor hard too. I can see that the crowd are back with their umbrellas. Musetti is that's Sonego, sorry. Sonego, they're looking fairly chilled at the side of the court, which is...
Okay, so you've got Sonego Tsitsipas.
Yeah, exactly, at the same time as Musetti.
Nothing's coming. Nothing's happening on the Musetti court yet.
No, and there's the only thing that's happening the rain has started again.
Yeah, I'm seeing extra spots of rain on the camera lens.
Yeah.
That's not going to do the tournament any favors because it's already 10 o'clock over there.
Indeed. It wouldn't be surprising if they called it a day. I thought this 9:45. I could actually see Musetti and Sonego next to each other, albeit that Musetti won't have very far to go to get to his court. But it probably suggests that play is not as imminent as we had optimistically thought. What do we think in terms of time? I mean, what time have they normally been playing until anyway? Like 11, 12 o'clock?
Ish. I mean, they haven't been going super late. I think usually everything's been done by about 10-ish.
Yeah.
Just after their time. I think that I don't know what Rome doesn't have as much of a reputation for going late. Historically. I think if they can't get it underway in the next hour, they're going to call it.
Yeah, I even think we may get to a point where they just say no more new matches begin. So any matches that I've promoted on our live streams today may not even get underway at all today. Just because the matches that are still underway are at least 30 to 45 to 60 minutes away from concluding.
I mean, the Tiafoe and Musetti, that needs to finish for Badosa Muchová to start. That could be done in 20 minutes.
Could be, yeah. Could be. Could be done in 15. Could be, it could be 40. You just don't know if it goes to a tiebreak or whatever. But given those numbers, 20, 30, 40 minutes, is it really worth starting and playing 2 games and then coming back tomorrow? I would understand it if we were really struggling in terms of getting all the matches in, but I still think we'll be okay. I don't know what I did have a quick look at the Rome weather predictions actually for the next few days. It sort of seems to be 50-50 rain each day. But it's not quite Wimbledon-esque sort of levels of where just how on earth are they going to get all the matches in? I see lots of people making phone calls. I have no idea if they're very important people or not.
They're probably just going. They're probably just talking about what do we do? When's the rain going to? Is the rain going to move? Is it a shower?
The Formula One, they can get very accurate on the predictions and expectations of it's going to rain between 10:17 and 10:31, and then it'll be back again for 4 minutes at 11 o'clock. But Yeah, maybe Rome is not afforded such luxurious technology.
I don't think tennis in general invests as much in technology as Formula One.
Yeah, well, no doubt.
I'm pretty sure that if you hired the Red Bull racing team to predict the weather, this would have run much smoother.
Yeah, so it's a bit of a damp squib, pun intended. I think, as I say, in terms of the WTA thing, I think we might be done for the day.
Yeah. Look, those who are tuning in for Badosa versus Muchová, we're now not confident that's going to happen, and you may have to close down that stream with Świątek Vekic.
I agree. I might even be able to sort of put it back 12, 14, 16 hours. I don't know, depending on, of course, who is available to commentate should it occur. But I will probably keep going, Nick, with if there's until they say, look, we're not going to bother with this. Musetti and of course Zverev against JJ Wolf, which is an intriguing moment. Oh, hang on a second. It looks like his announcement. They're probably going to speak in Italian.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure termination, termine, whatever it was, termine meaning end of the day. And I see basically people filing out. That makes sense. I heard a few boos, but you know, if they know it's going to be, someone's got a beer. I see 3 beers that are getting heavily diluted right now by the rain. Yeah, play cancelled for the day.
That's just a depressing thought.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, if you like beer, it is particularly. But yeah, so that is the confirmation. We can just go for 5 minutes, Nick, and maybe just give an assessment of the day's play. And of course, the biggest result, Ghosty. I'd love to know what you think, Ghosty, because he has joined us for the live chat. And now, as I said earlier, Ghosty and Carlos Alcaraz, I would argue, have an equally good chance of winning the Italian Open. On the women's side, I'm just trying to. We had Ostapenko winning today in usual bizarre Ostapenko fashion. I saw a great tweet from Gil Gross earlier. I'll see if I can bring that up on the screen, just in terms of the madness that Ostapenko tends to bring to the tennis court in more ways than one. And not only that, she's through. I mean, that's the main thing, and she's on the opposite side of the draw to Iga. Am I right?
I think she's in the same side. She could play in the semis.
Of course, yes. Okay. So that could be a very interesting potential semi-final. Yeah, here's the Ostapenko thing that Gil Gross highlighted. Let's share that. In Ostapenko's 27 matches this year, 17 have had a 6-love or a 6-1 set, win or loss. So yeah, it's a frequent occurrence.
Yes, in either direction. And that just sums up Ostapenko completely. As it's either blisteringly unplayable or she isn't playing. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, do you see her getting as far as the semi-finals? I'm going to have a quick look at the WTA draw right now.
Yeah, so I think from our show yesterday, she definitely has a chance, actually. She's going to be playing the winner of the Badosa Muchová match. Okay. So she may have a little bit of advantage in terms of recovery, because obviously that's not started. And she also has the power, if she is in the mood, to blow either of them off the court. And then that could potentially set up a semi-final with Iga Świątek, which, given Świątek doesn't have a great record against Ostapenko, is quite juicy, really.
Yeah. Just share this screen from some of the results from today and the last round anyway.
I have to say, when we did the WTA show yesterday, obviously I did a few predictions for the last 16 matches. Of the 6 that actually took place today, I got 3 of them right. Okay.
Yeah. Zheng goes through, so that's and I think Vanch as well has gone big on her on this tournament. So that's good. Okay, so is Zheng which half? She's in the opposite half to
opposite half. Yeah, okay. She's in the opposite half. So her next match will be against Karolína, who surprised Madison Keys. Yeah. But I think maybe Keys was a little cold from having not played Azarenka. Maybe had a little bit of an easy one against Freck. So maybe not massively surprised she faded. Although I did back Keys to win that match. But yeah, Zheng versus Karolína, big opportunity for. No, what am I talking about? Sorry, she's not playing. She's not playing her. She's playing Kudermetova.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So is Hadadmaya playing Karolína?
Yes. Hadadmaya's playing Karolína, beating Osorio, who I was hoping would be on a good run, a breakthrough run, but came to an end. So yeah, Hadadmaya's going to play Karolína. Zheng is going to play Kudermetova. That, I think, may end up deciding the Rome finalist, actually.
Okay. Yeah. The only thing is, I would just, for the competitive side of things, hope that Zheng makes the final, because Kudermetova against Iga, we've seen it twice this year, and I think Kudermetova's won 3 games across 4 sets.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. From a competitive perspective, Zheng would be the more interesting. Maybe Hadadmaya.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe. Yeah. And then we've got obviously Rybakina winning reasonably comfortable today against Vondrousova. Does
Pleasantly
that surprise you? Yeah.
Pleasantly surprised. So I didn't maybe say surprise is the wrong word. I thought it was definitely possible. I was backing Vondrousova because I thought she'd be more comfortable, but clearly Rybakina has found a groove now on clay and kind of proving me right, despite me being a little despondent about her chance against Vondrousova specifically. Rybakina, but I've always said Rybakina is better on slow courts than we think. Yeah, she's through and she's awaiting the winner of Świątek or Vekic. And given Rybakina has a habit of irritating Świątek, that could be fun.
Yeah, so that is interesting. Okay, so that is WTA Day 8. ATP today. Say some of these are obviously still very much in the balance. Zverev obviously a set and they're on serve, so you would make Zverev the slight favorite, but he did have an early break of serve, and then JJ Wolf broke back. Musetti Tiafoe's been sorry.
Winner of that plays Medvedev.
Okay. Yeah.
Rematch from Monte Carlo. That's going to be fun.
Yeah, and Medvedev won that, right? If in Monte Carlo, yeah. So yeah, and we've got Musetti against Tiafoe. Was as dramatic as perhaps the scoreline suggests. Tiafoe was down an early break, and to me was struggling for the first sort of half a dozen games of that. I think the crowd was annoying him, and of course he was getting even more annoyed when they wanted to continue playing in the rain. JJ Wolf and Zverev had halted their match due to the rain. And just 100 meters or so away, Musetti and Tiafoe continued for about another 5 or 10 minutes, much to the mirth and interest of many people on Twitter. Tsitsipas Sonego, I can tell you nothing about because I didn't even see a ball hit, but Tsitsipas has won that first set. All of these matches will get underway again tomorrow because rain has brought play to a halt. Medvedev, as we just touched on earlier, beating Zapata Miralles. I guess that could have gone either way. So the fact that the Daniel won is not crazy. But what, of course, was crazy was Carlos Alcaraz losing today. Oh, one other match. Rublev beating Davidovich-Fokina as well. Actually, Rublev-Davidovich-Fokina is the Jane Derby, if I'm right, in that these are two of her favorite players. So I wonder how she felt as Davidovich-Fokina put his return of serve wide on match point. Meaning the Russian went through at the Spaniards at expense. Any of these matches, you've got any notable thoughts on any of them, Nick?
No, I actually think the more interesting matches are the ones that have been, other than obviously the Alcaraz incident, the more interesting matches are the ones that are still very much in the balance. Great result from Rublev beating Davidovich-Fokina. That could have been a slippery one for him. And this is now an opportunity for Rublev to kind of right the ship after kind of going off rails a little bit when he lost to Lajovic in the Bosnia fight. Excuse me.
Yeah. Banja Luka, yeah.
In terms of, I think my only thoughts on sort of the matches that have been kind of suspended. Yeah, I can see some definite twists in the tails. Obviously, Musetti has led every set played in that match, including the third. Tiafoe has come back in 2 of them. That could be interesting. I can see a scenario where Sonego comes back against Tsitsipas. He's dangerous at home. And I could also see a scenario where Wolf overturns the deficit to Zverev. So they're those matches are very much in the balance. If it does end up being a Tsitsipas Musetti 4th round, which the winners of those matches will play each other, I could see a scenario where Musetti's raised by the crowd, especially having beaten Tiafoe, and gets under Tsitsipas's skin. I could see a scenario where either Sonego or Musetti, with the Italian crowd behind them, will upset Tsitsipas.
Djokovic is due to play tomorrow, but he may have to wait a little bit. He's actually due to play at 11 a.m. against Cam Norrie, which is quite interesting, bearing in mind the rain. I don't know whether they'll still stick to that or not, but keep an eye on schedules because I'm sure there needs to be some flexibility there. I've actually got one more score up on the screen just because I thought it was an interesting match beforehand. Hanfmann, the qualifier, who is capable of producing good tennis on the clay. But I did plump for Cecchinato before the match got underway, partly because I thought Cecchinato was really, really good in Estoril earlier in the year on the clay, especially in beating Dominik Fokina there. And I just thought, you know what? I saw some of the tennis that he played in Rome as well. I thought he might just have too much for Hanfmann. But hats off to the German for pulling off the 3-set victory. Okay, well, it's been a stop-start evening. Apologies to everyone affected by that, but I can control some things, but I cannot control the weather, and not in Rome, unfortunately. And of course, no roofs in Rome, meaning no alternatives other than to just sit tight and wait. And we'll have to wait until tomorrow before the Rome action resumes. Djokovic is favourite to win the men's right now? Yeah,
I would say so. Looking at who else is left and with the question marks over the others. And obviously Djokovic has won Rome many, many times. And in fact, I saw, again, I think it might have been Bastien, or it was either Bastien or Vanch, shared that the Rome every year since 2005, either Nadal or Djokovic has been in the Rome final.
That's right.
I think that streak's going to continue.
They've won as well, the pair of them, 16 out of the 18 events in that time. And the two occasions, I think it was Murray and Zverev won it back-to-back in about 15 and 16, something like
16,
that.
17.
16, 17. Djokovic was the runner-up. So, if Djokovic doesn't make the final, that'll be... Oh, by the way, he's made the quarterfinal or further as well every year since he went out in the qualifiers, also about 16, 17 years ago. So he's Mr. Consistent in Rome. I would imagine he will make the quarterfinals again, but that's when it'll get very, very difficult. Nick, thanks for stopping by.
Thanks for having me, John. Hope to be back soon.
Yeah. And to everyone else, make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're new. And we will catch you again sometime, somewhere, somehow, very, very soon. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.
He's serving well too. To do a place to the very that he make me look like an absolute genius tomorrow. But this is also something that can make me look like an absolute genius tomorrow. I think Fabian Marozsan will push Alcaraz. There's the chance that he wins the match is really so much higher to me than like what he's being presented as. Obviously, there's like a very high variance with Marozsan as a player because he just has a balls to the wall aggression style. It's not consistent. It's never going to be. But if he's on one of his better days, he just really has the play style where he takes the racket out of Alcaraz's hands. This is something you kind of need to do against him, I suppose. If he's serving well too. If he's just playing as he usually is, so getting a good serve in and then just taking the ball early, blasting it, never caring about the potential of missing his shots, trying to finish every single point in less than 4 or 5 shots in the rally. I think this is the sort of tennis that can really take out all the assets that Carlos has if executed to like absolute perfection. So in that sense, I'm not sure if he's gonna bring it tomorrow, but there is an outside chance there. I do see it. I do see it, and I'm very, very happy that we are finally getting a chance to just check out Maroshan on the big screen. Well, on the big screen. I wanted to say on the big.
Big
stage. I want to say big stage. Yeah, Jesus Christ. Yeah, I'm sorry. As I said, I just woke up. Anyway, I'm very happy that we're finally getting that chance. Before this week, I hadn't even realized that he never played an ATP Tour main draw. Like when I stopped to think about it, I was definitely like, he probably hasn't played one, but maybe somewhere over the years. I of course checked it, and it turned out that this match in the opening round, which was a fantastic opportunity.
Schluss mit trockener Haut. Pflege sie mit Garnier Body Superfoods. 97% Inhaltsstoffe natürlichen Ursprungs.
Thanks for tuning into this watch along. While there's a break in play, here's a reminder to hit the like button, subscribe, and click that notification bell. Your support helps to keep the channel going. While we're here, you can now become a member to enjoy perks, including badges for the live chat, but also bonus material such as interviews with top players from both ATP and WTA tours. The membership link is pinned in the live chat. You can also follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. So whether it be serves or volleys, forehands or backhands, serve bots or drop shots, we've got you covered. Whether that be via our website, talking-tennis.com, where you can read features and interviews from our top writers. Or if you prefer us in audio form, you can subscribe to our podcast on Apple, Amazon, or Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from. Remember, we offer you wall-to-wall coverage via our regular watch-alongs, magazine shows such as Nick's WTA Weekly or Damien and Mario's ATP version. Plus, we deliver top content from people on the ground, actually at the tournaments, so you get even nearer to the action. So, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on all things tennis.
You've been to the French Open final. Your breakthrough, at least standout result at the beginning of your career, was on grass against Venus. Mm-hmm. You've been very solid on the hard courts. Mm-hmm. Is there a slam in particular that you go, I think that's, if I'm going to get one, the first one might come here, there, or where?
Well, I don't know. I mean, everyone, I'm like, I think this is the first one. So I don't know. I mean, obviously now going to the French, I do have a lot of confidence on the surface. But I'm not really thinking about that. I feel like, in the past I was, and it gave me some like defeats that I feel like I shouldn't have lost, maybe more so my head. So going in now, I mean, I feel like, everyone could be the one, but I think I have to just take it a match at a time and just feel it out and enjoy it. I think when you focus too much on the destination, you don't enjoy the journey there. So now I want to focus more on the journey, and if the destination gets there, that's great.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.